Majors. I'm Brian Costello.
I'm Jim DeSanto.
And I'm Johnny Castle.
There you go.
Johnny.
Right back at it. We never know what you're going to come with. Today, we're going to see why nobody puts baby in a corner as we watch the always tremendous Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey in Dirty Dancing. But first, as always, we ask the most important question of every episode. What are we drinking this episode?
I'm drinking the Sons of Liberty Battle Cry that Brian gave me for my birthday. It is delicious.
I am enjoying a One Hope Cabernet Sauvignon tonight. Also delicious. Cheers.
And remember, if you would like that wine, make sure you're following Katie on One Hope Havertown on Facebook.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Also supporting behavioral therapy for kids who are on the autism spectrum. So drinking
Awesome.
for a cause.
Doing good work.
I am drinking Summit American Pale Ale, which is by Tilted Barn Brewery in
Ooh.
Rhode Island, in
I
Exeter,
really
Rhode
enjoy
Island.
that can.
Yeah,
That's a nice
is
dog.
Little puppy.
a awesome brewery that brews their beer in a legit old barn.
Okay.
Breweries are popping up everywhere in America,
I just
like
realized
podcasts.
we're not showing Brian. Hold on one second.
I was wondering
Uh-oh.
about that. I was
There
like, why
you
can
are.
I see Brian, but no one else can?
Yeah.
There's his face.
Yes. So it breweries and podcasts, very similar to a podcast.
Right,
I went
hold it
in
up
and there were
more.
all
leave it there.
basically
Mhm.
40-year-old white guys
Mhm.
in an old defunct barn.
Yeah.
Awesome people,
I love
delicious
it.
beer.
I
Highly recommend it.
feel like their dog is very Eric Carle inspired. It
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like it could be out of the Hungry Caterpillar,
Yeah.
Grouchy Ladybug book series. I like it.
Oh.
Is what I'm saying. I think that's a really nice can.
Yeah,
You've got a
really
nice
well.
can, Brian.
Thank you.
Oh, Mandy's
appreciate
drinking a
it.
mango weed from Free Will.
Oh, I saw that
okay.
you went there today.
Free Will has some
Yes.
good beer.
Mm-hmm. She just made the visit today.
I love it. You people should listen and drink along.
Drink along.
you're-
It's nice. It's gonna be
Unless you
fun.
listen to us on the pod version and are driving
Mm.
as you listen to
Can
us.
we
Have
make
a
it
water
into a
or
drinking
coffee?
game?
Yeah.
Every
Or if
time
you're on the
Brian or I
treadmill.
mess up a word, you have to take a sip.
Oh, well, they
That
would
could
be
be
pretty
fun.
drunk.
That could be fun.
All right.
Jim's
Okay.
Not amused. Not playing along.
Rundown.
The
Quick-
rundown.
Katie
Yes.
Katie basically has the script. She's just going to read the script.
Just going to read the
rundown.
whole script. Oh,
Well,
love it.
I wrote it while I was putting the kids to bed, so this one was more of like a 3-minute version than the
Okay.
usual 90-second version. It gets a little serious, but it comes back around to being a little more lighthearted. I feel
Okay.
strongly about this movie. Okay, here we go. Baby is a girl on a quest to change the world. A college freshman, face makeup free, sweaters bulky, hair naturally curled. Contrary to many girls of her time, she is not going to college to find a husband to finance a life sublime. On her family summer vacay in the Catskills at a mountain retreat, she meets the rebel dancer Johnny Castle, who helps her find her heart, her libido, and her feet. In the course of 3 weeks, Baby and Johnny experience romance, fast and true. Her story inspired a generation of wise, liberal, sexy women who would think WWBD, what would Baby do?
There we go.
I think we should just stop right there and be done with this episode.
Let's call it. That was
Okay.
rather intense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where to go after that, especially since in our show sheet, preceding your rundown, we had a number that said piss monkey. So I think we really,
Oh, yeah, we skipped right over the fact
How
check.
about we'll do, can we save fact check for the end?
Yeah,
Since
let's
we
do-
just
yes.
jumped
since
right
it's
on
so
in there.
serious,
Just-
and that's a
I'm
tease. You can
so
talk
excited
about
to talk about it.
piss monkey later. So we get Dirty Dancing, a film that there was a lot of excitement when we announced
Mhm.
it was the film we were going to do. Rightfully so. This movie is awesome.
It holds up.
It is everything
Yeah.
that Independence Day was not. A
Agreed.
film released a long time ago that you thought, hey, Dirty Dancing, I remember it, and you only remember bits and pieces of it, but it was fun. Rewatch, though, and you do this rewatch and you're like, no, this is an actual movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was nervous to rewatch because it's been a few years, and I was like, oh, is this going to be one of those movies that the shine's going to wear off? The glass is going to be broken, and I'm going to be like, oh no, all the things. On the contrary, I don't think when I watched this the first 10 times, I was even getting the story as it is, right? Like, I feel like I see all new things now as a 38-year-old woman, and I am like, oh, hells yes. Thank you for this movie that happened in the 80s, written about the 60s, that everybody needed. Everybody needed this movie. Yes.
I really genuinely found this movie, and I think this is the first time of any of the movies we've done, almost 50 episodes now, that the movie exceeded by a great deal my expectation.
Yeah, totally.
Of it.
I think,
by a long shot.
For our second Patrick Swayze movie, holding this up to Roadhouse, right? Like it's clear, it's clear that Roadhouse lives in its own space, and this is a completely different thing, right? Like this, I was thinking, like, I'm sure from a cinematography standpoint, it's not the most amazing, but it feels to me very like real, like you are just kind of like a fly on the wall in certain rooms and situations, and that you're really just supposed to be immersed in their story and not really struck by like the beauty of a shot or anything like that.
I thought it was okay. I thought they went for the aesthetic that they probably wanted.
Okay.
I thought that part of it was actually what I was thinking, talking about Roadhouse when I saw this, is maybe how undervalued Patrick Swayze was as an actor.
And I was remembering our conversation of that, right? Yeah. That
he was good.
He's so good in this movie.
And this character is not, to me, it's his character. Well, and to be fair, most of the characters in this movie are not multi-dimensional. They're sort of.
I would agree
you don't
with
think
that,
he is?
I think he's pretty thin, and his motivations are pretty.
I don't know.
They're very cliche.
I feel like towards the end, you get a fuller concept of who he is and why
they really breeze over the fact that he's like an awesome dancer, and it was like some guy came into a thing and I mean more about like who he is in this world, right? And how he feels about his role as like the stud muffin dance instructor who nobody expects to be any. So to me, right? But to me, so he speaks about that. Like the trope, right? Of like this is the one-dimensional self that I'm supposed to be. And you're the only person who sees anything more than that.
I don't think I as much as I love this film, I kind of side a little bit with Jim. I don't think the screenplay for this film was great.
Okay.
I thought it set up everything. It was fine. It wasn't bad. But I think it was a pretty much, this is like upper class versus lower class, how they're going to be perceived.
Sure.
What I thought was good, very good actually, was their ability, the performances of pretty much all the actors to take dialogue that was, I think, fairly like mild. There's not a lot on the table for them to do with it, but they played it well. So I think that's maybe more a testament to that, how they did it. Now, the thing that I thought was going to be the most problematic avenue and idea about this episode was, how do we discuss the Swayze-Jennifer Grey relationship? Because in my mind, when you just think back to it, she's supposed to be young, like 17, and he was older. And, is this going to be one of those things where he was so much older and it was kind of like a predatory type of situation, which used to be fairly common in films back then? Cast somebody it was much less of an issue for me than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, this didn't feel like, it didn't feel anything more than maybe like a junior or senior in college picking up a freshman.
Right. So I did think that it was an interesting omission that they never tell you his age. Like that just seemed like, what? Like just tell us, right? And so I felt like you do a lot of figuring of like, well, if he and what's the girl's name? His
Penny.
Dance partner. He and Penny are supposed to be the same age, and she was in a relationship with Robbie. Then Robbie's still in college, right? Like she can't be that much older than Robbie, right? So I feel like I did that. Like I did like 3 degrees of like Patrick Swayze still would be kind of like a senior in college.
Well, Swayze, if I did the math right, Swayze was 35 when he did this film.
Mm-hmm.
But Jennifer Grey was 27.
Oh, that's great. That makes me feel great.
So what I was kind of interested, Aileen watched it and I asked, well, how old do you think he's supposed to be playing in this film? And we kind of thought like maybe on the high end, 24, 25, maybe, because he's still a guy and you kind of read it and when he's like, oh yeah, my uncle's finally going to get me a thing in this painters union type situation. And my read was like, here's a guy who was trying to make it as a dancer. And, probably didn't go to college and he's been doing this now since, maybe 6 or 7 years. And he's finally saying, well, maybe I have to get a real job now.
Right.
Type situation. So I was surprised. Also, I think those types of disturbing relationships are all over this movie. In terms of the parents wanting to set her up with that guy who he looked like he was a 40-year-old man. Yep. Straight up 40-year-old man. I don't know what college he was going to. Yep. I mean, Richard Grieco could have been in this film, and if he was, he would have been playing like a kindergarten student based on the ages of the other people.
All of the this film. The husband paying Johnny Castle to keep his wife busy that night, and her having sex with all the college guys, like.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know. I just listen. Not that we're advocating, in a modern standard, but I think based on what we were seeing there, that was not a relationship that would have been ultimately frowned upon.
Oh, not at all.
I was happy about, because it made the viewing a little bit easier.
Not because of the age.
Was going to be a big.
And I also think that the way that it's told, the way the story's told, he's never like predatory, right? Whereas some of the other men are, right? So like
all the others. Yeah, and I think that was a good choice by them
absolutely.
too. He's the opposite of all that.
Yep. So I think you very much see him in a more positive light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, Bri?
Yeah.
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 Sorry. I thought you were moving on.
No, it chopped. You froze on me for a second, so I was waiting to hear the end.
I said yay for Johnny Castle. Yay.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. And yay for his cousin.
Yeah.
Which
also
is a character
cool
I didn't
guy.
really didn't remember. I realized pretty early in this viewing there were a lot of characters side characters I really didn't remember. The only stuff I remembered was Penny a little bit having the abortion. I remember Jerry Orbach was the dad.
Mm-hmm. Love him.
And obviously Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze, and everything else was very kind of not in my memory bank. Like I didn't remember the sister being involved so much and all that type of stuff.
I love that dynamic too, like between the sisters and then with the father, how that all plays out in the movie. To me, like that's a really important side storyline, parallel storyline as well in the like coming of age. Like this is a very, I think for the time, unexpected, unconventional coming of age story.
No, not for the time of the 80s. But the period piece, right?
I don't know. So, I mean, compare it to some of the stuff of the 80s. Like, certainly you're starting to see the Breakfast Club kinds of movies in the 80s. But
before this.
But so I still would say that this is like direct commentary on like a society, right? Like a specific subculture, and then also just like standards, norms of the time. And you see that in those other movies, but I think that there's a very specific message here, just about like what we expect of, teenage girls and what we don't expect of them.
Sure.
So.
Well, I also thought it was interesting because it really does hit on a lot of the themes that Mad Men will come in much later.
Mm-hmm.
and delve into. And it did a better job. And maybe with when you're younger doing the viewings, you don't catch on to that. But there was so much of the aspect of what life was like for people in the early 1960s in terms of not just women, but people living in poverty or who are slightly below what is deemed to be societally acceptable. And, again, so much of this movie, you think about the dancing and stuff like that, but I thought there was some really interesting dynamics of the haves versus the have-nots.
Yeah, totally.
In terms of, it's kind of in your face, but not too preachy, I guess.
No, they don't focus on that in talking about, there's never any exposition about that. It's more just characters sharing their own stories, rather than saying like, and to talk about, what we did last week, Veronica Mars, there's very much voiceover in Veronica Mars that is about the class issues, right? And in this, it's more Johnny just sharing his experience and then seeing the experience of like these rich girls and these college, kids. So
it's not direct. So, but I do think that there is focus on that, right?
Oh, no, I didn't mean there's focus. What I meant is that it's like, it's a little more, like surgical in how it's delivered. It's not delivered clunky as like, they're not hitting you over the head.
Yeah.
They're letting you kind of put the pieces together. No one ever says like, we're poor. We don't have any choices. This is how we have to live. And this is our box to live in because of that.
Yeah.
That's not present here. That like, there's no speech like that.
But we get those moments that like form that story, right? So
that's what I'm saying.
You have
it's
like the staff meeting at the beginning.
Yes.
Where it's like all the waiters, all of the cabana boy people, like, please wine and dine. All of the girls, even the cows. Right. But the dance staff, like, you keep your hands to yourself.
Right. And that's
and
like
there's the notion of like, who's allowed to touch the guests.
Yeah. And I think that is a benefit of this movie, is that it doesn't make you feel like it's trying to teach you a lesson while you're watching it.
It doesn't dumb it down. It just, yes, I agree.
The way that they teach a lesson here is to make you empathize with the characters, which is always the best way.
Just tell the story.
Yeah. Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe, I'm wondering if saying the screenplay was too simple. I think it was simple, but I don't want to mean it if people think that it means the screenplay is bad, because I think there are little elements that are some really interesting dialogue. I think there is some simple dialogue scenes, but then there's some great things. The scene when Patrick Swayze is talking about when Jennifer Grey asks him, well, how many women have you been with?
Yeah.
And he does that little monologue basically of, you have nothing. And the first time I came up here and, women are giving you the room keys and all this type of stuff. And, you think that this is because they value you and there's worth to you, and you realize they're just using you. Mm-hmm. That was, I didn't remember that scene at all, ever, until I saw this viewing of it. That, for a man to have a dialogue like that,
and I think
like
is
really intriguing.
His character perfectly, right? Where like they don't give him some kind of like, he's not so rough around the edges that it becomes a stereotype, right? Like they don't affect his voice, his dialect. Like he just sounds like a regular guy. And then they also don't give him dialogue that's too elevated, right? Too flowery. To me, they play it just right, where like you totally believe this character, right? Mm-hmm. Like that, like Johnny Castle, like folks have this idea of him, but like when you talk to him, he's not what folks expect him to be.
And I'll say that this movie has some funny parts too.
Yeah.
And the best part is it's not a joke written script, right? The funny parts of this movie are just kind of the characters being themselves and being funny, or their reactions to each other.
Or like having awkward moments with each other. Yeah.
It's not like they're not writing jokes in the script. And thank God, because there's probably a version of this that's really terrible that tries to be more like out loud joke funny.
Well, it's funny, like even thinking about like the I carried a watermelon, that's
a great line. Yeah.
But like for her, like it's great that everybody remembers that, because for the character of Baby, like that's the line that she's going to remember for the rest of her life. Like, I can't believe I said I freaking carried a watermelon.
I was waiting.
That was my first line.
I was waiting for someone to say Elvis has left the building, because it would have been more culturally appropriate time wise for someone to say that in this film
totally.
than in that. Jerry Orbach, who I absolutely love,
yes.
As Lenny Briscoe on Law and Order.
100%,
and
yes.
Aileen, to tell you how much people love this movie, Aileen actually watched this movie with me. She doesn't always.
Yay.
We watched it on our anniversary.
Great anniversary film. Mm-hmm.
But she's like, the guy from Law and Order. I love him. He is great. One of the things she and I were having a conversation on, and maybe it's just the layers of this film as you get older, is in my mind, he always was kind of a bad guy, or not a bad guy, but maybe, he was a bit of an antagonist, right? In the fact that, and in this movie, he's just a normal guy. I'm this makes
but that's interesting that you're
sense.
watching it as a dad now.
Right.
It makes complete sense
Totally.
to me.
But he doesn't do anything. So he has almost as much of an arc as Baby, right? Like he is learning to be her father and in who she really is, just like she's learning to. Yeah, and it's funny that the mother and the sister kind of take a back seat to all this growth, which is probably just for the film's purpose. Yeah,
but I mean, so in comparing it to Independence Day, right? Like they don't they don't take too broad of a focus, right? Like they focus in on where where they need to.
At the end, Alien was like, the mother said 3 words in this film now?
Yeah. It was not, I mean, she was not a major
they
character
weren't allowed
in
to
this
speak
movie.
back then.
You're funny. But I do think that from the beginning, you get that notion that like the older sister is kind of more aligned with mom.
Right.
Right. And Baby is more like she's connected to dad. We know that, right? We know that throughout the film. And so because it's Baby's coming of age story, her relationship with dad is primary.
Yeah. And if you want, a cut of this that is more funny is basically Mrs. Maisel season 2.
I was going to say it.
It is like a counter piece to this movie in like a great way. And I feel like I have more appreciation for this movie because that movie, or season 2 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, dives really deep into these like Catskill,
which really is a whole culture, like
all inclusive
like
60s
upper, yes. So Jewish, upper socioeconomic, like that was a whole culture.
The Costellos went to an open house of one of those once to see if we wanted to go at one
I've
point.
been to Slovakskij, which is the Slovakian Catskillian.
I want to hear all about this.
And I drove past so many places that I was like, oh, that could totally be where Dirty Dancing took place. Like, I mean, it really does look like you've driven back to the 1960s.
Episodes, I will get to finish a goddamn thought.
Not ever. No, that's never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
Keep
in your entire friendship with me or marriage to your wife, you have never ever going to happen.
He had a whole day with Scout today. I'm sure he was able to say some things.
You should have been. You should have been Facebook
every time you tried to talk.
She barked.
You were saying, James.
I was saying that I think watching that season of Mrs. Maisel about these types of summer getaways in the 60s is just gives you much more appreciation to know like sort of what another experience in these types of environments is like, and sort of like all the goings on behind the scenes, because that season dives into like the wait staff and the people that are helping and just like a lot more going on, and it's interesting, and how much it is used as a matchmaking like place. So like I think that I don't think that is brought across very well in Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, I think there might be a little bit of alluding to it, but you're absolutely right.
It's only with Baby, which is like, is this normal? If you saw like and here's a line, like you could just have a throwaway line that the mother could have said something like, well, those two, that's basically like Mrs. Maisel's mom is like trying to get everybody together.
The
right?
matchmaker.
So, the matchmaker.
Okay.
I do like how this film is streamlined, though.
Yes.
I mean, maybe that's part of it.
There's no fat.
So
on
I
it.
think you can watch the movie without having that historical context. But I agree with you that that world was completely foreign to me.
Mhm.
You know, even the notion of folks like having vacation homes or
Right.
like going away for weeks in the summer, like growing up in rural Pennsylvania, like that wasn't a thing, right?
You were busy, just drink with your teacher.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, no, but even moving
was the
down
type of
here
stuff
and
was
like
going.
people going to the shore for the summer, having a second home. Like I didn't. That's not the world I knew. So, but for me, I was still able to access like the complete story of Dirty Dancing as like a whole new world.
Mhm.
Now having more of an understanding of what those like mountain retreats were for folks who lived in the city and how they were used very much as a place to like meet your future husband, similar to women going to college in the 50s and 60s in mainline Philadelphia. It really was like a matchmaking scenario. And so when you bring that knowledge into watching Dirty Dancing, to me, the story of Baby is even more compelling, right? Like the commentary speaks even louder.
Do you know who had a relationship that was made at a camp on a lake?
Dennis and Patricia.
Yes, Dennis and Patricia
What?
Costello. Yes, they were. It was a sleepaway camp, not a Dirty Dancing style place, but they were counselors at this camp, and that is where they met.
Patty, did you go there to find a husband? Tell the truth.
I think she was 16. So, but it's interesting because this is not speaking out of turn. My mom came from a very affluent upbringing. My grandfather worked on Wall Street and was very successful. And my father's family was the exact opposite. My grandfather, my dad's side, worked on the rail lines.
And they still let her marry him?
Yeah.
I mean, if this was The Notebook,
yes,
forget about it.
Yeah.
Forget about it.
So true love can be found at
in the Catskills.
retreats it was almost in the Catskills, close to it. But what I also love about the Marvelous Miss Maple,
everybody drink.
Mabel, I don't. But is this idea of how history is so intriguing, like Jim bringing that connection in. I love the subtle thing, and I'm a history teacher, so I got it. But the idea that when Baby says to him, you tell me I can change the world, all this type of stuff, this Kennedy ideology that the parents were, pushing on the teens of this time period, but they were really like the Korean War, World War II parents. But when push came to shove and the civil rights movement started to happen and gender equality for women and the Equal Rights Amendment happened, they said, you're being too radical. This is too much. And she kind of goes back at him. She's like, you're telling me you want me to change the world. And here I am. I'm seeing the world as this guy is someone who I love. And I don't care that he's not the fucking asshole that you're going to write a recommendation to medical school for, who is knocked up a girl, left her to die, and is now banging some woman and is trying to bang your other daughter. And I'm saying this is a good person, and you've told me to change the world, and then you come at me about it. And I think that's an interesting dynamic that was actually happening in the 60s.
Well, and
they
I
played
think
that.
it still happens today, right? So like, how easy is it for us to write the check, to, volunteer for the soup kitchen, send the stuff. But when it comes to like analyzing systems that are at play in our own lives and like our relationships, like, who wants to do that?
Well, no, but or
Nobody's
even
signing up
this,
for that.
I mean, this is not a political podcast, but Baltimore has obviously come into the thing. But my point is this: all of us on the show, and many who probably listen, are huge fans of The Wire. We saw how screwed up that whole system is, and we talk about it, and we say we watched the show, but how many people have actually tried to do something to help that city? Sure. I mean, that city is a mess, and it's like, oh yeah, well, I watched The Wire, so I know how it is. But we're not helping organizations in that city or doing anything, and we're just content to say, well, it was messed up. Yeah. We think by like just saying, oh, we know how they feel and we feel for them, but we don't actually do anything. And I thought that, again, was streamlined. And now
or you can take it one step lower, and we don't even say that we would try to help them. We just bash them.
Watch it, consume it. Yeah,
I'm speaking.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know where you're about to go with. But my point, I've talked myself now into thinking maybe the screenplay is a lot better than I was giving it credit to.
Again, like watching it now, I felt like I noticed so much more than I ever noticed as a teenager and a 20-something. Like, and I mean, all of that stuff is there, right? Like, it's all subtle, and I can look at it as like, oh, well, this is probably why that appealed to me, yada yada. But was I really seeing it? Was I able to like verbalize it?
I was actually shocked how short this movie was.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. This thing just moved, and to their credit, this thing just moves.
Yep.
Katie, this was probably, and you've hit on this. I feel like this is one of those movies, like in college, people our age, girls would have just watched a lot in the dorm room type situation. But what was it that drew you to the film? Maybe at that time versus now, you think? Is there a difference to it?
So I don't know. So like, as I've spoken about before, this was a movie I was not allowed to watch for a while. When I think about the timeline on it, it was a blockbuster movie, right? But it was 1987. I was 7 years old. There was no letting a 7-year-old watch this movie. I don't know at what age you would say like now's an okay time.
Yeah.
Right. So of course I wasn't allowed to watch this. Now my cousins, many of them were older than me, right? And so the youngest cousin, she saw stuff before I did because she was the youngest of 4.
Yeah.
Right. And so that always changes like when kids see things, right? When they're the youngest of, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely does.
And so for me, it
Kevin
was really,
saw Predator when
it was like
4.
a word of mouth situation.
Listen,
where like,
I was watching Commando at 5, so, but I might not be the one to. And by the way, that is not a swipe at my parents. I did not turn into a mass murderer. I think there's reasons people don't watch things now, but we're also okay for having watched them.
So here's what I was thinking about, like, why is this movie so appealing? I was telling Jim I was listening to This American Life, and they had a little bit by Kurt Vonnegut talking about like your classic stories, right? And like so you plug in a million stories to this formula. Right. Like, and it always works, and so one of them is like, guy is in a good situation in life. Shit happens. Things go down. He figures it out. Somebody helps him. Things go back up. Right. Another one is like the rom-com formula. He like plays that all out. He's like, and then we have this one. It's like girl's mother dies. Her father marries a witch who has horrible children, and they treat her like crap. And then, along comes someone who makes her life better and gives her this, the carriage, the dress, the crown, and she meets Prince Charming. And the Cinderella story is told over and over and over again. And then we get this notion as a society, that like women need to be saved from their circumstances, right? Like be the fairy godmother, be the Prince Charming. And I said to Jim, it's so interesting to look at this story through that lens, because this is Cinderella being like, no, I don't fucking need to be saved by the Catskills. Like, I am who I am, but I also didn't know that I could be a sexual woman.
Well,
right? Like, I can be smart and I can take control of my body and have a summer romance that doesn't have to end in marriage, that doesn't have to have a 20-year plan. That is just like, let's have fun for 3 weeks, and then I'm going to college, and we'll never see each other again.
I will not argue with you on that. Completely agree. But counterpoint, this is your exact Cinderella story. It's just gender swapped.
Yeah,
exactly. Agreed.
But
which is very progressive for that time.
But at the end, you don't get the notion of like, and now Patrick Swayze is going to live happily ever after. He's climbed the social ladder,
and they did give him the like saving moment. He is he does have the moment of like coming back and saying nobody puts baby in the corner.
Yeah. So they save each other.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
They help each other.
I didn't necessarily see him as the hero, which I liked. No. I thought they were equal partners in the whole situation.
I think it's super empowering. Like when I look at it as like what appeals to a teenage girl, for girls in the 1980s, no one was telling you like you can be a sexual being and still be smart and still have a future. You can have all of those things. Nobody was saying that. That was not a thing. And this movie was revolutionary.
Well, it does come up a lot in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
I think
it's a game changer. Oh, you mean that idea?
Yeah. I think this sentiment was clearly like part of the time. I think there's a little bit of it in 16 Candles.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of the John Hughes movies, the female characters, I think, are sort of in that struggling in that vein. The other point I was going to make is that, you know, at the time, like you said, you're probably in college and later years in high school, and is sort of when you fell in love with it. It's sort of that same thing. I mean, we watched Varsity Blues, which is, if you take, it's not as good as Dirty Dancing. I don't think that movie, but I think the ideas of like that story for a male are played out.
Yeah,
you know, time like we can go back to the earliest movies and see the same story over and over again. And so, like, to say, you know, to I think if we're going to enjoy watching that movie, I think I think you can recognize the similarities and enjoy Dirty Dancing. And in fact, it's a much better film in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think Dirty Dancing gets maybe categorized as like a chick flick sort of film.
Yeah.
But then, but when you watch it and think it through, it is so much more than that. It has so much going on.
Yeah, at its base, it's going to be those teenage, young 20s characters deciding who they are, right? And to me, that is like, and we've already mentioned it tonight, The Breakfast Club is like the version of that movie that will always probably resonate with me the most. But there's hundreds, right? Like, and we talked about Can't Hardly Wait. There's a lot of that going on in that movie. All these high school movies sort of revolve in that sphere because I think it's such a human element to go through that in that time period in your life.
Sure.
That like the moment you see it represented on film, you're like, you attach to it immediately. And I think for females, it was a lot. For women, it was just tougher to see that in film.
Yeah, I agree. I also need to point out Johnny and Penny's relationship as like a strong representation of a male-female friendship that is clearly deep and true and non-sexual.
Agreed.
I think that...
Well, I mean...
Well, so they say like when they were teenagers, right?
You can't dance like that and be non-sexual.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, you can't?
That's interesting.
That is a challenge. That is a challenge.
Yeah.
I want to see that. All right. We're almost out of time to talk about the film. Let's each share one more thing that we loved about this film. Can I start?
Yes.
I am rewatching the AFI films. As we've discussed, I'm a quarter of the way through it now. And being a quarter of the way through it, and this could get me kicked out of the Unspooled Facebook group, think this film is better than West Side Story.
Yeah.
I think it's better than West Side Story. If that's my hot take for this episode.
Well, and can we be honest? Like West Side Story is Romeo and Juliet. I just feel like so you've taken the story of Romeo and Juliet and put it in a modern context. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're completely true. And the other thing is this, and we didn't even talk about it, which is shocked. It's a testament to how good this film is. To me, this film is a quasi musical because of the soundtrack.
Yep.
Every song is. I think every song is perfectly placed.
I said
that's fine. It has popular music. It is, but it's not a musical.
But the role of music in this movie,
I know it's not. Yes, it's not a musical, but
so important.
This is the closest to a musical we have done on this show.
I said to Jim, it's so interesting for me that like so many of these songs are famous songs in their own right.
Yes.
Right. Then they are also in Dirty Dancing. But for me, I don't know if I've even, until we rewatched it, connected the dots on some of the, like, obviously, like, Had the Time of My Life. Like, that's one that you think of
which
immediately.
Was written for the film and
sure,
everything.
And then the Hey Romeo, It's Me Lover Boy. Like, I feel like there's songs that are immediately like, oh, Dirty Dancing. Like, that's what I think of. But then there's other songs in there, like These Arms of Mine, that I have such an emotional reaction to those songs, and I don't think I cognitively connect them with Dirty Dancing, but I do think it's because that's my relationship to those songs.
100%. It uses music. Excellent. But
it's not a musical.
It's not a musical. Characters are not singing.
Yeah.
Yes, and I might prefer that. Katie, anything else you would like to add, or are you good to go?
I was so pleasantly surprised rewatching this movie.
The final thing I'll say is just the scene where Lenny Briscoe is like contemplating the lake and his daughter's virginity, which is awkward, to say the least.
Yes.
And she comes and she says, I don't remember the whole, it's a monologue because he doesn't talk the entire scene, but both of them are extremely well acted. What she's saying and his reaction. But I think she ends with saying something like, I'm sorry I disappoint, or I'm sorry I let you down, but you let me down too. And that like kind of sums up like his arc, because you can see when she walks away that I think all the pieces finally click into place for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's clearly a different guy the next day. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And remember, if you like this film, make sure you check out this director's next film, a little film.
He's a director for hire. God damn it, Brian. The director had nothing to do with this film. The guy probably just pointed and was like, go there and say this.
Amazing film that we will be doing on an upcoming episode.
We are not doing that movie.
I love
we
that
are,
movie.
absolutely. Let's take a vote. So Katie, do you want to do chances are, yes or no?
I sure as hell do.
Jack Shepherd?
That's me.
Two to one. Quiet. Jack Shepherd is very quiet.
Scout also says yes.
Yes. All right. So then we'll do it. All right. So that
Don't get up, Jack.
That is Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing.
Whew. So good.
All right. What are we doing first? We doing the game of the week or... Yeah?
Yeah, let's do game of the week.
You ready?
All right. We're ready. Let's go. Game of the week. And this week's game is a new game. Keep two, cut two. All right, so a new game for us this week, Keep Two, Cut Two. You get to keep two aspects of the movie, but you have to cut out two aspects of the movie. So here are the four options. Patrick Swayze, Jennifer Grey, the soundtrack, and the 1960s setting. You can only keep two of these things in the film. You have to cut out two. Jim, you go first.
My hot take here, you lose both the actors.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
I think they're both replaceable in this film.
Wow.
I think they're both great.
Your sister is going to be appalled.
I think they're both great, but without the soundtrack and the 60s setting, I think this movie loses way more than... Like, think about the actors at the time there's someone that can replace Swayze.
Yes, who? Let's play
Tom Cruise.
There's instantly recasting Tom Cruise.
No, maybe not. Whatever. There are a bunch of people that can replace Patrick Swayze and Jennifer
That was
Grey.
A hot take. I love that.
Yeah. I'm going the opposite way.
Hot take.
I'm going to say you could set this in a different time period. Obviously, the story would change slightly, but I think you could still tell it in a similar way.
Those two are quintessentially 80s. You cannot take them out of that.
Okay, so I mean, listen, we're this is a game. I don't think you can change Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey.
How can you take this?
Okay.
What about this?
Play the game.
What about this dancing? This dirty dancing that is so controversial makes sense past the 60s.
Like maybe you would change the
bring
way
it to the
they
20s?
dance a little bit. Like this girl showing up in a Hispanic community in 2002 looked at kids dancing and was like, I've never seen people dance like this. So I feel like, you can take it out of the 60s.
Okay.
You can take it out of the 60s.
Maybe we should see, as evidence of what happens when you don't have them, Dirty Dancing 2, Havana Nights. Has anyone seen that film?
I can't get rid of Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze in this movie. I can't do it.
I was really torn with this one because I firmly believe, I think the setting you might be able to change. it's difficult because of the whole resort type. You'd have to work with that a little bit. I don't think you can change the soundtrack, though. I don't know. If you change the time period, obviously we change the soundtrack. I went into thinking I was going to keep Patrick Swayze and the soundtrack. I'm not sure about Jennifer Grey, though. I thought she was really good in this. And unfortunately, this was her career kind of went in a different direction after this. I thought maybe Patrick Swayze, and could you put Elizabeth Shue in that role, who was also playing things like this at this time period?
I don't think so.
Worked. I think that Jennifer Grey works because she wasn't really known, right? Like she really can play the role.
She was Ferris Bueller's sister.
Yeah, but that's a minor character.
Yeah, I mean, this was easily her biggest film.
Right. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you can make anyone in that role be as good as her.
I just think this is a really tough one because the soundtrack to me just makes so many of those sequences.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why you write such hard questions to answer.
Because that's the point. If we all had interesting, easy answers,
total anxiety.
You have to be challenged, Katie. We are challenging you here with this. All right. So, Jim, you said, let's review quickly. You said you would keep.
He's keeping the soundtrack and the setting. I'm keeping the actors.
Keeping the actors. I'm gonna go Swayze and soundtrack.
All right.
And I feel kind of bad.
You know who could fill in for Jennifer Grey? Katie Curtis.
Tom Cruise.
Well, that's Tom Cruise.
I will fill in. I will take.
Okay.
I will take
Speaking of Elizabeth Shue,
hold it.
Go ahead.
No, can we just say that Aileen did not know Patrick Swayze was dead?
Oh, that makes me sad for her.
I know. She's like, when did he die? I'm like, a decade ago.
How'd she miss that?
Because she doesn't really keep up with pop culture stuff, and she's not interested in it. It was sad, though. I didn't realize it was that long ago. All right, so that is Game of the Week. Now it's time for 5 questions.
You want answers? You want answers? I want the truth!
What makes a man, Mr. Lebowski?
What the fuck is the internet?
Why, Jim? Why?
All right, 5 question time. This week, Jim is answering the 5 questions. And I should add, because some people have asked, Jim and I were hard at work at streamlining, doing some production stuff, thanks to Katie, who has convinced us the show needs to be shorter. And I think she was spot on. The last few episodes, we've been clocking in under an hour, and it's been great. All the things that happen when we're together. And we'll get to the piss monkey, which also happens when we're together after 5 questions. All right, here we go, Jim. You ready?
Yep.
5 questions. Thumbs up or thumbs down, something that was shown in this film, talent shows.
I'm a thumbs up on talent shows. I like a good talent show.
All right. Perfect. All right, here we go. Really important question. We could all answer this one. Sexier Swayze, Dirty Dancing, or Roadhouse?
I think it's got to be Dirty Dancing because of the dancing. I think dudes will like a sexier Swayze in Roadhouse because of the fighting. But he's outdone by, what's his name?
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott is so damn sexy in that movie.
Yeah.
Agreed. Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing? Okay, Dirty Dancing it is. All right, fill in the blank question. Jim, if you were a summer camp director or in charge of some group at one of these places, what would you be in charge of?
Ooh, maybe music or possibly
you would
baseball?
Hate being in charge of music at a summer camp.
I would hate working at a summer camp.
No, you would be in charge of the video game room.
Oh, video game room would be awesome. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
We've got Minecraft room,
building computers,
robotics,
technology.
You're in
there.
I'm in on that. Air conditioned. It has to be air conditioned.
Yeah.
Claire has that at her camp she's going to now. They do the robot Legos, the electrical
I'm fine
ones.
if everybody is hot. Like if everybody's outside and sweating, then I'm like,
you've accepted your fate.
No, it's like we're all, it's those moments where like everyone else is fine, but I'm sweating that I feel less than.
I'm still going to say that
Yeah.
you would want like, oh, can I be inside and playing with computers? Yes.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
All right. Great. All right.
Fine.
Favorite question. Jerry Orbach, R.I.P. We love you. Lenny Briscoe was also one of the key voices in a little Disney film called Beauty and the Beast.
Wait,
Jim,
who is he in Beauty and the Beast?
who is he is Lumiere.
Never knew that.
Oh, yes. He was a great Broadway actor, which is how we got on Law and Order.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Oh my God.
Which, think about this. Jerry Orbach, voice of Lumiere, partnering with Jesse Martin from Rent as cops on Law and Order. Mind blown. Best show.
Yep.
Go back and watch Law and Order.
Yep.
Jim, who's your favorite Beauty and the Beast character?
I don't know. I guess I would have to say Lumiere. I mean,
He's good.
All the other characters. I mean, Belle is obviously the
I don't know.
the choice.
Gaston's a pretty great character.
Gaston is a great character.
He
He
is
eats so
hysterical.
many eggs.
So in the new version,
Yeah.
actually, is the song the same? I laugh every
His
freaking
friend
time.
is a good character
Yeah,
too.
the friend is
Yes.
like. So
Josh
they're
Gad,
talking
Josh
about
Gad,
about
live action.
about Belle, and it's like she has a certain, and Josh Gad says "je ne sais quoi,"
Yeah.
and Gaston says, "I don't know what that means."
Yeah.
I laugh
Yeah.
every freaking time, every
I
single
don't know what
time.
that means. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
great.
love it.
Yeah.
All right. Deep thoughts question for the week. Jim, can you think of a film soundtrack that is actually better than the film
Forrest Gump.
that it's in?
Oh.
Forrest
Agreed.
Gump. Yeah, Forrest
I
Gump
do
right
not
out of the
like
bat.
Forrest
Strong
Gump
choice.
either. That's a great choice.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
there's
like Forrest
hundreds. The Crow.
Ooh, that was a good choice too. This is why we asked you
There's
this question.
probably a Tarantino
what's
movie,
what's the Tom Cruise?
even though they're
Cocktail?
amazing. Cocktail.
Cocktail.
We
has a
were
That's a
just
great
talking
soundtrack.
about.
I love
We
that
were just
soundtrack.
talking about Cocktail before the show,
Yeah.
Katie. We
Yeah.
want to do Cocktail
Kokomo.
and
Kokomo.
invite.
I can't even remember the movie, but I
Yeah,
can
we
remember
want
the
to
Elizabeth
invite-
Shue.
There
We
you
want
go.
to invite
This
Tim
is-
from Pop Addled, who is a bartender,
Mhm.
onto the show and
Yeah.
do Cocktail.
Yeah.
I think it would be amazing.
Yeah, Elizabeth Shue. This is
Elizabeth Shue is in
yeah.
that film as well.
This is-
There's a
and
lot going on.
I
in
was
this.
just watching The Boys on Amazon, and she is in
Ooh.
that show.
How is that show? Is it good?
I'm interested. Yeah, Carl
Okay.
Urban. He's a badass.
All right. And that is 5 questions. All right, we're going to do a quick fact check because we didn't talk about it. Katie, what is the piss monkey?
Can I be honest? I forget.
Oh, your purse monkey.
That was your
Eva
big
kept
thing.
dropping.
Oh, yeah. So when Brian came down, we went to Reading Terminal Market for some Bassett's ice cream. And my child was playing with my purse. I think my purse is a Kipling purse. I think that's what it is. I got it at TJ Maxx, but apparently it's a thing. And every Kipling bag comes with a monkey, like a little furry monkey that's the same color as your bag. And so mine is a little yellow monkey. It hooks onto my purse. And when Eva is bored, I give her the monkey to play with. So she's walking down the sidewalk outside of Reading Terminal, which, if anybody doesn't know, is a hub for some of the city's homeless population. And that kid drops that monkey, I swear to God,
Oh, God, every 10
4
steps.
times. And there was just shit and piss everywhere. Like the whole place just smelled of it. And she was like splashing in the puddles. I was like, that's urine. She just jumped in a puddle of urine. Like, that's not rainwater. That's, and dropping this monkey. And so, yeah,
He is the piss
my
monkey.
purse monkey is now the piss monkey.
Piss monkey. Well, there you go. And we did go see How Did This Get Made?
Drink.
Excuse me.
Drink.
Because I
got
messed up a
drinks.
word.
I'm
Got
good.
And it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. We enjoyed every second of it. And if you can see a podcast live, which you do probably every week when you watch us on
Yeah.
Facebook Live.
Watch us.
So, watch us. And we're free.
Also,
All right.
watch the movie Double Dragon. It's life changing.
Oh my God. Double Dragon was
So good.
amazing.
Brian, look.
Wow. You really
Just done
enjoy
some damage
that.
to me.
Yes.
That gift there.
It's only been a week.
We hinted at this in our episode last week for August, and I can't believe it's August already, but it's about to be August for our next episode. We are doing a little something called Amazon August, where Katie, Jim, and I have each picked 3 films that are currently on Amazon Video, and many people get that.
And there's
And
some
there-
shit out there.
Oh yeah, you can go down the rabbit hole there. There is some crazy ass shit going on Amazon.
I started
streaming
showing
video.
my students Dark Crystal because I could only show things that I had free on Amazon. They were like,
Yeah.
what the hell is this?
So we've each picked 3 films. They're all secret. What we're going to do is I have this amazing box that I have kept for, God, since I graduated from college. Katie
Some people
made
make
this.
the world more special just by being in it. It's so true, Brian.
Katie made this a beautiful
people are
star
worth melting
box for me that had
Oh.
pictures on it from college and everything that I've kept.
Brian
I
R.
put-
Olaf?
Wait. Show the picture on the bottom of the box.
Oh,
I
it's
love that. I love
Katie
that
and Aaron Powers. Or no,
No,
Molly.
it's Molly.
You were shaking it.
Sorry. So I've put these in this star box. What we're going to do is we're going to randomly select one of the 9 movies from Amazon, go on Amazon Video. Again, so many people have Amazon Video because you probably have Amazon Prime. Watch a movie for free and then join in.
I love
All
this
right.
idea.
So our first Amazon August film is going to be
Do.
a film I selected
Oh, thank God.
from 1974, The Conversation.
I don't even
This
know
is
what
a
that
film. I'm going to do a little film school here for us. This is a film that was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, stars Gene Hackman, was nominated for an Academy Award, and is described quite frequently as one of the hidden gems of
Film.
Hollywood from the 70s. And I'm excited. I have never seen this, and it is something that people have recommended. So, going out of our comfort zone, maybe a little bit here. But one of the things I love about Amazon is they do have several niche opportunities for you.
Yeah.
They have some really ridiculous kind of borderline insane films, but they also have some great classic Hollywood that will challenge people. So this is, I think, going to be really interesting. A film from the 70s, and we haven't done much 70s cinema here. And that was like time of Watergate, heightened paranoia,
Yeah.
a lot of these subversive films that has a really unique style to it. So we'll be doing Gene Hackman, The Conversation. Again, free. Well, I say free. It's free if you get your Amazon Prime account. And I don't know many people who are getting Amazon Prime just to get the video.
Yeah.
To be fair. You can get that and watch it, and we'll see where we go with it.
Sounds
And
good.
then let me tell you, the Star Box is filled with some really interesting choices, to say the least. So we'll do The Conversation. Anything else? We good? Remember, like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, email us at commajors@gmail.com. I am off to the great state of Maine for a couple of days for our anniversary.
Yay.
So I will have stories of the great state of
If you
Maine when
see
I
Stephen
return.
King, tell him I said hello.
I will make sure that Stephen and I will probably get together,
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
I will make sure to let him know that.
Yeah.
What's it?
Thank you.
Does he have a little bed and breakfast? Is that what he's got going on? Where did Jerry and Lisa stayed in a
fuck are you
place?
talking
No,
about?
there's a thing.
Yeah, Stephen King's running a bed and breakfast. That's his. That's his.
That's it.
that's-
Let's just end
you know.
right on that. We're going to end right on Stephen King.
He was
Stephen
a greeter
King
at
is
Walmart
running-
in his retirement.
Listen,
but that
Steve,
is-
if you haven't thought this through yet, you'd make a killing, literally.
Oh my God!
Open
Goodbye,
up a little
everybody.
bit of
Goodbye,
breakfast.
everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.